Hello, everyone. Welcome to another meditation, morning meditation. This one I've called "Staying True Amidst Chaos," and we're kind of in the middle of chaos right now. All the things that are happening around the world, uh, uh, in terms of the reaction to the reaction to the senseless murder of George Floyd, um, and the pandemic. The protests, of course, I think are quite legitimate and valuable, and I actually say it's about time that the people in the comfortable West started making some noise again. Um, and of course, the pandemic has everyone confused. There's not been a great source of correct information, trustworthy information. Um, and the numbers are inflated, but there are cases, and yeah, we just really don't know what's going on, and it's very confusing for people. And I've noticed a lot of people, even people in my satsang and the like, people getting very angry and upset, um, uh, talking about various kinds of what are called conspiracy theories, right? It's a label. It's a pejorative label. It's not really true. It applies to anybody who contradicts the official narrative, and a lot of it is actually true. But um, we can get extremely emotionally attached to a position. That's the point I want to make. That's the thing I want to talk about mostly this morning, and that is when we get really attached to a position to the point where we're holding on to it, even where it's causing anger and stress and 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 upset. And I have to admit, when I hear some of our politicians talking, it makes my blood boil, because they're lying. It's pretty much all a lie. Um, but then, if I take this really strong position and I cling to it, what happens is I lose my center, I lose my balance, I lose my peace. Most importantly, especially in what we're facing right now, I lose my power and authority as well. Because that kind of clutching and that kind of anger grows out of a deep sense of powerlessness. Now, the reality is, if we look at it simply in terms of politics and the like, the individual is powerless. There's almost nothing we can do. Even voting is, I think it was Will Rogers said, if voting actually was effective, it would be illegal. Um, so, where do we find that power and authority? Well, we have to stay true to that deep inner sense that does not take a position. Now, that doesn't mean we don't we don't take positions where appropriate in the outer world. But I'm referring to how we deal with ourselves internally. And if we are identified with the position, you'll know it, because you'll feel um, irritated, you'll feel stressed, you'll feel anger. Right? You can take a position without an attachment to it. But I want to talk about taking internally, where in order to see the right position to take externally, there must be no position internally. That is, we identify with no position. Those of you who have studied inner reconciliation know that, or even the yoga of allowing, know that that sense of not taking a position is absolutely key to emotional, spiritual, and even physical healing. Because without that, we end up inevitably in a state of judging ourselves. If you deny a part of you, um, characterize it as negative. It's a bad. I got to get rid of this. This isn't allowable. It's not spiritual enough. It's not smart enough. It's whatever. What you've done is create a rift inside of you, and that rift. Within that rift that all our emotional stuff happens, because it was the rejection of ourselves from our caregivers when we were little that created the internal schism in the first place. The only thing that will correct it is enough accepting love that allows us to simply feel what we're feeling and not take sides. Now, I myself find myself getting involved, especially with all the things that are going on today. And if there's one thing I hate, it's hypocrisy, right? I mean, hypocrisy, I believe, was one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I mean, it is rampant in our governments. They're saying one thing and doing another. All the people talking about democracy, and they don't want democracy. Not at all. Capitalism and democracy are incompatible. So, in the meditation today, I wanted us to go first to this place within us that does not take a position, so that when we are taking a position externally, which we need to do, right, it doesn't seep inward. We recognize that any position we take is going to be relative. There's no absolute external position. Attempting to create one, assert one, is why the world is struggling. Right? We live in a world where the economic system simply isn't working except for a handful of people. Right? Yet we cling to it as if this is the only way. Right? That's what I mean by taking a position. It becomes fundamentalist. It becomes dogmatic. When in fact it's relative. It may have worked once. It doesn't work anymore. And if I've got a vested interest in that, I've got my ego invested in that, it's going to be hard to let go of that. So we have to go to the place where there isn't anything invested, where there isn't ego, right? And it's very easily acceptable. I'm just going to say hi to everybody real quick. Hi, Dave. Good to see you. Hi, Brian. Wonderful session with you and Kelly yesterday. Great. Thank you. Sorry about all the technical stuff. I'm really working hard now. I'm looking for another place I can do my broadcasts and because the internet here just really isn't trustworthy. I love it. It's beautiful, but I never expected that the internet would be that bad, and I can't even get phone service to be able to broadcast through my phone. So I'm going to be doing things a bit differently. I'm looking for another place that I can put my stuff, if maybe even a whole other place to move to if need be. Hi, Ava. Good to see you. Wonderful to listen to you again. Namaste, everyone. Dave says it's getting very serious in downtown Washington right now. Swarms of military are storming the streets. Very scary. Very scary. And when I see things like that, this kind of this this authoritarian spirit has been alive in Washington for a very, very long time. This is nothing new. It's always been just subtle, masked in words of democracy and safety. Safety is always the justification of it. So when it actually starts to be, it gets forced by a circumstance into becoming more overt, because it's slowly trying to grab territory. But when something like this happens, and you have a pathological sociopath in the White House who's anxious to anything that gives him a sense of power because it doesn't have any internally. It's going to display the actual weakness and really the motivations. And so I don't see it as a completely bad sign. I mean, it's horrible, of course, but it's that kind of thing that wakes people up and say, "Hey, what's going on? This is not This is not right. Yes, for a small percentage of people that are creating a problem, we don't even know what the origin of them are. There could actually be instigators attempting to do that, right? I mean, nobody's really looking at it very, very, very closely. But because of that small amount, justifying this huge force, this huge show of force, it's pretty easy to see through. And I think more and more people are. Obviously, the people of color, like the black community, like they've been living with it for decades. So for them, it's like, yeah, what's the surprise? You know, hey, hey, Whitey, look, hey, now it's you, right? Welcome to the club. Anyway, hello, Kamal. Greetings to you too, Anna Marie in Poland, Linus. Great to be here again. Me too. Cheryl, this topic is so important. Thank you. You're very welcome. P.S. says hello, Dorothy in Denmark. So we got a quorum here. It's been 11 minutes, so let's get into the meditation. And uh, and as you close your eyes, just let go of everything. Let go of all your opinions, ideas of way things should be, the images of what's going on around us right now. Really see if you can just step back from everything that's happening and all your thoughts about it, your feelings about it. Right? Because remember, they come and go. Those are important, but they're temporary positions. Thank God they're not permanent. They are temporary. Circumstances will change, and our mission here is to become that influence deep in the collective unconscious of us all that is influencing the change towards the light. And we have the power and the potential to do that, I can assure you. Because on the level in which we are engaging right now, we are connected to everyone. There's a level at which the individual simply disappears, and there's just this field of consciousness that is one. And when you are conscious of that, it's like the river flowing to the ocean, or the plant that seeks the sun. We become the influence guides of humanity, really, of that potential. But to use that potential, we must step back, let go of your opinions, the past, the images you hold of yourself, the images you hold of the world, the way you want the future to go. Just let it all go. Even those things that are most precious to you. Just picture yourself laying them on the altar of truth, and let truth do with it what it will. And if there's still some tension or it's a struggle to let go, just bring your attention to your breath. Deepen it and slow it down. And just feel your whole body. This is the realm of feeling, of sensing, not the realm of thought or thinking. Reaching into that part of us that is consciously connected to everything else. So you're dropping all thoughts, like a little child that is just pure experience. Only with an awareness of that experience. Aware that you are aware. Now, thoughts will continue to come, but our power is our capacity to choose whether or not to engage. You have that power. We habitually engage. It's just what we're used to doing. But now, conscious of that, we choose to simply stay in this realm of feeling, of sensing, but sensing with a sense that is not our five senses, something more subtle. Eckhart Tolle calls it the transcendent dimension. Sense I am. And that sense I am is universal. Everyone feels it. So you see this deep layer underneath that is connected to all is not as abstract or as distant as it would seem. For at this place of this simple sense of our own being, everyone is feeling exactly the same thing. This is the ground of all being. Notice that it's effortless. Notice that you didn't create it. Matter of fact, it wasn't even created. It just is. It is the place that is aware of everything else. And just be with this for a moment. It's very subtle, but it's very real. I call it an it because it's the limit of language. But it's you. It's you without reference to anything other than you, without any reference to what is being experienced. It is not conditioned or programmed. It is the witness of all conditioning and programming. It has no position. It is the witness of all positions. It has no beliefs, no preferences. It is the pure consciousness of experience. And it's you. And it's me. And it's every sentient being on the planet. What it is conscious of is different for every sentient being. The consciousness that is manifested as a plant experiences a plant universe. If it's an animal universe. The human universe. And the sense, the capacity to turn attention towards that which is knowing. And again, notice that this is where you are seeing from. You, without external references, simply knowing yourself and everything else. But this you is simply this awareness. It's no thought, no belief, no position, no theology, no ideology, no posture, pure awareness, pure knowing, pure I. Now, this is the real you. It is not knowable by the mind because you're not an object that can be perceived. You're not a form. You're not a thought. You are a completely different dimension of being. But this does not discard the world or the dimension of experience. And as our attention begins to turn back outward, as we leave the meditation, the world is not a problem to be solved or an intrusion that needs to be gotten rid of. It is not a samsara that needs to be overcome. It is simply this realm of conditioning and experiencing. And as we're coming out of the meditation, we are not leaving this place of pure awareness. You are not leaving this behind as if it was one identity out of many. It is who you are. And I want you to consciously welcome this truth, this living truth, to inhabit and colonize your entire nervous system. To begin to bring it into harmony with who you really are. So that staying true to you means staying true to the true you, which remains completely calm, equanimous, fearless, creative in the midst of the greatest turmoil or chaos. Because it's unmovable, uncreated, without beginning or end. So as you turn your attention now back outwards, remember who is turning their attention back outwards. And as you begin to open your eyes, remember who it is that is actually seeing the point of consciousness, the real you. So welcome back, everyone. Or the one of us. Oh, as always, thank you guys for joining me. This is meditation number 40. I've done 40 of these, and many of you have been here for all of them. So, uh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, uh, Open now for some questions or comments, and about, about whatever's on your mind or how that was for you. Um, Remember, for me, my main job is to point you away from what you're not to what you are. And the more you know who you are, the less of the what's going on in the world out here will disturb you. And the less it disturbs you, it doesn't make you indifferent. In fact, it empowers you to bring about transformations that you didn't think were possible otherwise. Kamal says, the attention goes to the head when I try to look for the perceiver. Yes. Yes, it will. Now, just notice that, though. The attention goes to the head when I try to look for the perceiver. Who's looking at the attention? Who's watching it go to the head? Right? You have to remember the nature of mind. Right? Mind is thought. It's just the flow of thoughts. It's patterns of thought. The mind isn't a thing per se. It's a pattern of thoughts. Right? But the nature of that pattern of thoughts, especially, it's really evident in language. You can't have a sentence without with a bare minimum, a subject and an object. You have to have two. You can't describe one thing without something else to describe it in terms of. The mind cannot grasp the one. You cannot see yourself. So, yes, when you try to find the perceiver, the mind is going to continually try to present attention, because attention's gone as far as it can go because it can't see it, the perceiver, because the perceiver is always behind the lens. No matter where the lens turns, the perceiver is always behind it. Well, now what happens is, if you just stay there, right, and keep trying to see it, even though you can't, in the process of doing that, the attention is losing its attachment to all of the things that it went to before. The mind grows weaker because you're not giving it any more attention, because no matter what comes up, it's being perceived, and you recognize that. Even the subtlest things are being perceived. Feelings that are so subtle, we don't even have words for them. You can feel them all the time running through your body, little things. There's not even words for them. All perceived. But this is the boundary at which you can't go any further. This is the end of the line. And the mind trying to find an object. When people want to know who they are, there's this assumption that somehow I'm going to get this thought, and I'm going, oh, this is who I am, and it's going to be some kind of concrete form I could look at. But if you noticed, that which is looking doesn't have a form, which means your mind can't know it. Your mind cannot know you. You cannot know yourself as one thing knows another. It can't be done. And yet you know you are, don't you? Now put your attention on, how is it that you know that you are? You're not seeing it. It's not a subject and object. It's not like I can point to the tree or that fence behind me or the camera in front of me and know it, that one object knows another. This you can't. So how is it you know that you are? Put your attention on there. Because there's an intuitive sense that is non-objective, non-phenomenal, and yet is there any denial, any any kind of doubt whatsoever that you are. How do you know? This is the this is brings the depths of the question, who am I, the ultimate perceiver that can't be perceived? Does that help you, Kamal? Beautiful. I love seeing you on this threshold. Marlene, hello, Marlene. Grateful for these meditations, GP. Oh, you're so very, very welcome. Alessandra, hello. Good to see you. Clear awareness meditation. Thank you, says Dorothy. Yes, thank you. Thank you too, Dave. I enjoy all these meditations, even when I can't be here. I watch them on YouTube. Great. Very good. Very good. Not a lot of people from Facebook today. Look at that. Matter of fact, none. Isn't that interesting? Oh, Facebook is a little bit more flaky than YouTube. Uh, hello, Rosario. Good to see you. Thank you. You're very welcome. All of you are very, very welcome. It's so good. Yes, thank you. I hope you don't mind me asking so many questions. No, that's why I'm here. If there weren't any questions, what would I do? I don't talk to myself. No, it's my reason for being is to answer the questions, to clear up delusions, to bring light, right? Naomi, cooking and listening from the UK. There we go. We got somebody in Nikasha, Nishkala. Hello, good to see you. Good to see you. Um, so, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I can bring this to a close. Um, so, staying true to many people, staying true means staying true to a position, right? No position is trustworthy, right? Because all positions are relative. The only position that is absolute is the one you're looking from. From Ithaca, New York, or Ithaca, Greece. I guess there's a few Ithacas around the world. Um, so I always like to know that actually the majority of people are that I get are actually from other countries, which I love. It's really wonderful. So New York, okay, very good. Okay, so if there's no more questions, there won't be any more answers. Opening eyes for meditation is like being back into the relative, is attention belonging to myself, but not being part of the relative. Correct. Right? You're not absorbed back into the relative. You are not in the relative. You are the absolute experiencing the relative. And just think about it. What's the most fundamental, constant, absolute experience you have? It's your own being. That's the absolute. That's absolutely always there, isn't it? If it's not, there's no experience. You are the constant. Now we simply have to take that I and as the constant and divest it of everything that isn't constant, that we've mistakenly identified as ourselves. This is the whole path. This is the direct path of Advaita, or non-dual teaching. I know that I am, says Kamal, but this knowing is not an experience. Yes, that's absolutely correct. And who knows that they are? Right? Keep pushing, keep pressing in this direction. You're knocking on the right door. Just keep knocking. And you notice how the mind constantly wants to bring you back to some kind of a position, some kind of an object that it can look to, right? And that's the habit we need to break. You cannot know yourself that way. It's not that you don't know yourself, but it's non-objective knowledge, or Muji refers to it as non-phenomenal recognition. and yet you do recognize that you are. That will just that door will finally open. Wonderful. Kamal says, how do people answer questions like like can you ever die? Can you ever die? I am somehow unable to answer this. Right. Um, yeah, it's a big one. Because if you rely on objective knowledge or discursive intellect, you have to be able to objectively prove it, and of course you can't. Right? You can't objectively prove it. Uh, Realistically, one way or the other, actually. The people who believe when you die, it's just done, it's all over. That's an assumption about the consciousness being a function of matter. Therefore, if the body ceases, you're going to die. So I assume, with that as the assumption, we say then that conclusion would make sense. Now, every assumption in in science has to be objectively proven in some way, put to experiments, right? Well, this one you can't, because you won't know until it happens. And and if it happens when you die, if it is the end, completely obscure, well, you won't know then either, because you won't be there to know, right? So the most honest position we could take about that is that I don't know. And the most honest position we can take about did I exist before I was born would have to be I don't remember. But it all depends on what you refer to as I, right? Does the body die? Yes. Will this dissolve? Yes. Am I the body? If I'm not the body, then what is the substance then? How do I answer that question without reference to the body, to direct experience? Well, my direct experience, as is yours, is that while experience is constantly changing, me, the one experiencing, has never changed. The quality, the character, the actual knowing of myself when I was 5 is no different than it is now. What I'm knowing is very different, right? But the I knowing has not changed. The whole experience of experiencing has been absolutely identical the entire time. If I use that as my evidence, it makes perfect sense to conclude that it was going on before I was born and it'll continue after I die. Right? So it becomes a matter of exploring the nature of consciousness itself. And you find that it isn't in time at all. And if it isn't in time, birth and death are irrelevant. They have nothing to do with anything. As a matter of fact, you find that nothing was ever born and nothing ever dies because no thing actually ever existed. Forms are constantly shifting, right? Everything you see is something else in constant motion, never sitting still for a second. So where's the thing that supposedly was born and died? Yes, certain patterns came together, held a bit of pattern integrity for a little bit, changed over time, and then dissolved. Was there a thing there that was born? These are wonderful questions to ponder, but at the root of them is your own sense of I. And remember, if my knowing of myself is non-objective, non-phenomenal, I know that I am, even though I can't experience it, then the nature of that I is what has to answer that question. Because all of our human knowledge is no longer relevant, because it's all the description of one thing in terms of another. So our normal way of knowing is completely out of the picture. Classical analysis, objective reasoning, all of it gone, because this is non-phenomenal. I'm not looking at a phenomenon and studying it. And I'm the only one that can answer the question, because there's nobody else here. There's nobody else in here to answer it. I can't refer to anybody else. I can't ask you. I can ask you what your experience is, but it'll just be me bringing in an experience, right? Through my own interpretation and filters and all that sort of stuff. And first off, I have to even know whether you exist or not. I could be talking to a wall right now in a mental institution. The only thing I know for sure is that I am. So, and at that point of I am, all other knowledge becomes secondary. It becomes relative. It can't answer this question. So, can you find a beginning to the sense I am? It will eventually just convince you there isn't a beginning. There isn't a beginning to something that always is. Time is irrelevant. It transcends time, transcends space. It has no dimensions. It just is. Is there a leap of faith that we need to make, or everything needs to make, or everything needs to be our direct? No, no leap of faith is required. But leap of faith is in the mind. This is direct knowing. This is a seeing. This is wisdom. This is not faith. It's not belief. Right? Now, there's a certain amount of faith that you have. Otherwise, you wouldn't even explore this direction, right? Right? But there's a certain intuitive feeling of a rightness about it, like I'm headed in the right direction, right? But that's not faith. That's an experience. There's a sense of truth there. Now, that sense of truth, when it's seen to be true without any support from the external world, that's what faith really is. Faith really means seeing what the eye can't see. There's a sense that says this is the direction, and yet all of the evidence externally says that's not the direction. This is the direction. But yet you know that it is. Following that internal leading, that's true faith. Um, Paul put it, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And one interpretation I saw of that, one translation I saw of that, was faith perceiving as real fact that which is invisible to the senses. Right. So faith isn't belief. It is a conviction that what you are internally seeing is true. It's an internal authority, very different than just I believe, right? Which is really just the mind trying to have conviction about something that's usually nonsense. Kamal said, "You said I know that since I can remember, I am, but I don't know before I remember." Correct. Yeah, correct. So look at just right now. Are you? Look right now at the experience of being, and looking directly at that experience, tell me if there's anything in that experience that says it's going to stop. You have to think about time. You have to bring all sorts of thoughts into it. But if just the experience of being, tell me if there's anything in there that indicates that it had a beginning or an end. No other reference than that, because all of the reference is external and conceptual. Kamal says, "You said exactly what I feel. It touched my heart. I somehow know that this is the right way." Yes. And you're walking on it. So it's not just intellectual that I know this is the right way. I know it. I know this is the right way, and I'm walking it. She'll be gone in a second. I don't know how loud that is for you guys listening to that. So beautiful, 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 beautiful. Yes, it'll touch your heart because the heart refers to the transcendent mind. It is wisdom. It is knowing. It is a knowing that does not depend on external confirmation. It's internally consistent and internally confirming. It's self-confirming. Your own existence is self-confirming. Nobody can verify it for you, and nobody needs to. Kamal says, "No, there's nothing that says it can end or it was born." Stay with that. perfect, right? When mind is put aside and all of its criteria, and you look simply at the sense of being, it's like it is self-evident that it just is. And to help shore that up, remember that in the world of science, for 3,000 years, they have been looking for what is. Right? It is recognized that every experience is the appearance of some substratum of that. So your body is an appearance, a form, which is actually a collection of cells. And if you look really closely, you'll find there's separation and distance between them. There's a bunch of space. So a body isn't a thing. It is an appearance of something else at another substratum of perception. Well, the cells themselves are an appearance of molecules, right? So the cells do not exist as an entity, right? The molecules don't exist as an entity. They're made of something smaller, and on and on and on it goes. And scientists have now built, what is it, that linear accelerator? It's a mile long for speeding up things, looking for what is, right? So until they've found that, no theory they have about the nature of consciousness or the universe or anything can be held to be true, because their fundamental premise has not been proven, right? And now we simply turn inward, and what do we find? We find what is. You are. They've simply been looking in the wrong place. They've looked out there for what is instead of looking at what is looking. Disregard that, but I keep bringing it. What is? Are you? Yes, I am. Sounds vaguely like what is, doesn't it? They said, I am. That is what is. The thing that everything else comes from. The thing that scientists have been looking. Something has to simply be in order for it can't be an appearance of something else. There must be something. Since everything is an appearance of something else, there has to be something that is not an appearance. Something that is. That something that is you. Kamal says, there are no attributes, nothing to say, no right or wrong here. Yes, correct. Right. The pure you, the absolute you. What is? All right. I'm going to let it go for now. Hope you've all enjoyed the meditation and my nice exchange with Kamal. Beautiful. Thank you, Kamal. Yeah. And please never be shy about asking questions of any kind. That is why I am here. All right. I'm going to let it go for today. I don't promise I'll be here tomorrow, but it's likely. And we'll see. Jay says, hey, G, enjoyed the anxiety session yesterday. Oh, yes, very good. Oh, and by the way, all my EFT stuff is now available. some free, some paid. There's a coupon now for even discounts on the stuff that's paid. And I am planning on putting together a training program for people who want to learn how to use EFT to help others. EFT, it's not non-dual. You don't have to be a non-dualist to practice it. It helps. It helps everything, actually. But it is my contribution to helping people help others through a very effective method that is very simple to learn and doesn't require a lot of education and the like. And you can very quickly begin to help others make stuff happen for themselves. So, namaste. Thank you, G. Love you. Love you too, Kamal. Dave Rose, namaste. And Ava with a rose. Thank you all. Till next time.